In the strongest possible terms, I continue to urge the government of India.
The investigation into the murder of a Sikh leader at the heart of all of this is ongoing. No one has been arrested.
I want you to know you can trust that New Democrats and everyone in this House will fight with everything we have to ensure.
Now, please leave our land. We need our own country, Khalistan. So there we have to clear them.
It's believed that the suspects and their vehicle may have been in that area for at least an hour prior to the homicide.
People used to come here for their safety as a refugee and stuff, right? And these days, we are not safe anywhere.
India has asked Canada to withdraw about 40 diplomatic staff from India, reports say, in a sharp escalation of a weeks-long crisis. India-Canada diplomatic feud escalates. According to a report that was initially published by the Financial Times, those who remained in the country after October 10 would be stripped of their diplomatic immunity. In a statement made 1 month ago, Canada suggested that India was maybe responsible for the assassination of a Sikh separatist leader that took place on Canadian soil. India has denied having any involvement in the incident. An official from the Indian Ministry of Foreign Affairs informed the BBC that the government had no comment. Since the beginning of this dispute, India has requested that Canada bring its diplomatic presence in Delhi up to the same level as its presence in Ottawa. This is because Canada maintains a significantly larger diplomatic presence in Delhi. The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, assured reporters that he had no intention of further escalating the dispute with India. "We're going to continue to engage responsibly and constructively with the government of India," he stated. As a result of Mr. Trudeau's statement in September that India may have been responsible for the slaying of Hardeep Singh Nijjar on June 18, tensions have increased between the two countries, who have traditionally enjoyed close connections to one another. Outside of a Sikh temple in British Columbia, 2 men in masks opened fire on him as he sat in his vehicle and slayed him.
In the strongest possible terms, I continue to urge the government of India.
There is security camera video that shows a little bit of what unfolded that night in June in Surrey, BC.
We believe that the suspects then fled on foot southbound down 122nd Street towards Cougar Creek.
Sikh needs their separate home.
That all these consulate offices are housing.
He was a citizen of Canada. In 2020, India officially labeled him a terrorist. But how did the relation between India and Canada degenerate into a public dispute? After a week alone on the world stage, Trudeau is forced to face the harsh reality. Mr. Trudeau stated to the Canadian Parliament that the country's intelligence agencies were examining whether or not agents of the government of India were involved in the slaying of Mr. Nijjar. While India's Ministry of Foreign Affairs initially dismissed the accusation, it later stated that it was open to investigate any particular facts provided by Canada. Since then, both nations have recalled their respective diplomats from the other country. On September 21st, India announced that it will no longer issue visas to people of Canada, citing security threats at its diplomatic missions in that country. The spokesperson for India's Ministry of Foreign Affairs stated that India is seeking parity in rank and diplomatic strength between the diplomatic missions of the two countries. Arindam Bagchi made this statement. "This is being sought because of Canadian diplomatic interference in our internal affairs," he added. "This is being sought because of Canadian diplomatic interference." In addition, Canada declared it will reduce its diplomatic staff in India, citing the fact that some of its ambassadors have received death threats over social media.
The investigation into the murder of a Sikh leader at the heart of all of this is ongoing. No one has been arrested.
3.5 months after Hardeep Singh Nijjar was gunned down.
Now, please leave our land. We need our own country, Khalistan. So there we have to clear them.
People used to come here for their safety as a refugee and stuff, right? And these days, we are not safe anywhere in the world.
According to a statement released by the State Department, in light of the current environment where tensions have heightened, we are taking action to ensure the safety of our diplomats. The Canadian Visa Application Service is still available in India. The United States, the UK, and Australia have all expressed their desire for Delhi to assist Canada in their probe. In several instances, the government of India has responded angrily to the demands of Sikh separatists living in Western countries for Khalistan, sometimes known as a separate country for Sikhs. Nijar is known for his outspoken support of the Khalistan movement. The movement, which reached its zenith in India in the 1980s with a violent insurgency centered in India's Punjab state, which is home to a majority Sikh population, was put down by the use of force. Canada-India rift, geopolitical consequences. The escalating row over the murder of a Sikh separatist leader has the potential to derail years of close relations between Canada and India, two key strategic partners on security and trade. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Canada was investigating credible allegations about the potential involvement of Indian government agents in the murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in British Columbia in June. India responded furiously, calling the allegations absurd. Both have expelled one of the other's diplomats, and it is unclear how they now pull back from the brink. The recent G20 summit hosted by Delhi offered some hints, but key among them was Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's tense and short meeting with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. After the two leaders met, there was no mincing of words. The Indian government said it had strong concerns about continuing anti-India activities of extremist elements in Canada, who is accused of promoting secessionism and inciting violence against Indian diplomats. The reference is to calls by Sikh activists in Canada for Khalistan, or a separate homeland for Sikhs.
I want you to know you can trust that New Democrats and everyone in this House will fight with everything we have to ensure.
In terms of the assassination, what did Canadian agencies and security forces know in Canada?
The killers of the Sikhs. I mean, for them to expel one of the top diplomats from Canada.
That car made its way out, and quickly after that, the assassins, they moved out as well.
The demand for Khalistan peaked in India in the 1980s, with an armed insurgency later crushed. Thousands of people were slain. The issue received wider global attention after 3 pro-Khalistan activists ended in quick succession in different countries earlier this year. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar has accused Canada of being driven by vote bank compulsion due to the support of Sikhs in Canadian politics. Chintamani Mahapatra, founder of the Kalinga Institute of Indo-Pacific Studies, believes that Trudeau's statements on the issue of Khalistan are divisive and appear biased in favor of the Khalistanis. The relationship between India and Canada has become more stressful due to Trudeau's actions. However, Avinash Paliwal, a politics and international studies professor at SOAS University of London, suggests that the sudden escalation may not be due to domestic compulsions, but may be due to intelligence agencies gathering credible information about covert operations on India's soil. Experts say that while Western countries see India as necessary to counter China's influence, there is growing concern about the direction of Indian politics under Prime Minister Modi. The developments will also be closely watched by Beijing and Moscow, who may see the confrontation differently. In the short term, an India-Canada confrontation will have geopolitical consequences, as Canada's strong statements and direct accusations will present a unique challenge to Western governments, particularly the UK and Australia. Trudeau's geopolitical challenge with India. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has been facing a cold geopolitical reality as he faces increasing tensions with India, one of the world's fastest-growing economies. The allegations made by Trudeau suggest that there was credible evidence the Indian government had participated in the extrajudicial slaying of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil, a Sikh activist whom India has accused of terrorism.
That car was used as a blocker car to block Mr. Hardeep Singh Nijjar in while the assassins came and shot at him.
The fault or responsibility lie with Canadian agencies and policymakers
that were, supplying, money for this hit, carrying this out. I think it's kind of like skepticism right now that as
it's believed that the suspects and their vehicle may have been in that area for at least an hour prior to the homicide.
Delhi has denied having anything to do with the murder. Trudeau has been left largely on his own as he goes toe-to-toe with India, one of the world's fastest-growing economies, with a population 35 times bigger than Canada's. In the days since the Prime Minister made the explosive announcement, his allies in the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance provided seemingly boilerplate public statements, all stopping far short of full-throated support. UK Foreign Secretary James Cleverly said his country took very seriously the things that Canada is saying, while Australia said it was deeply concerned by the accusations. However, perhaps the most deafening silence came from Canada's southern neighbor, the U.S. Two countries are close allies, but the U.S. did not speak up with outrage on Canada's behalf. When President Joe Biden publicly raised India while speaking at the UN, it was not to condemn, but to praise the country for helping to establish a new economic pathway. The problem for Canada, experts told the BBC, is that its interests currently pale in comparison to India's massive strategic importance. The United States, the UK, and all these Western and Indo-Pacific allies have built a strategy that largely focuses on India to be a bulwark and counterweight to China. That is something they can't afford to toss out the window. The fact that they haven't come out and rushed to Canada's defense is indicative of the geopolitical reality. Few outside India took issue with Trudeau's decision to publicly disclose the allegations, which, if true, would amount to a political assassination on Canadian soil at the hands of a fellow democracy. But those ethics may not be enough to shift global headwinds.
Is treated with the utmost seriousness and focus, and that we bring justice.
The Washington Post and the New York Times have spoken to people who say they've seen the video and are reporting
fiduciary duty. It takes our leader to be killed for a morsel of acknowledgement.
From watching that video, we could tell that this wasn't something that was done abruptly or it wasn't a random act.
A lot of anger in the community. The community has been saying this for years, that all these consulate offices, the Indian government.
This cold geopolitical reality meant an apparently solitary few days, while the tensions with India dialed up higher and higher. Diplomatic expulsions, travel advisories, and, most dramatically, a suspension of all visa services for Canadians seeking to travel to India. This comes at the end of an even longer summer for Canada's Liberal leader, as Canadians struggled with inflation and high interest rates. By September, Trudeau's approval ratings had dropped to a 3-year low, with 63% of Canadians disapproving of their Prime Minister, who was elected in 2015. Some experts caution that while Trudeau may seem to be standing alone on the international stage, this row with India may provide a much-needed bump at home. That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.